Yo,
Yo, what's up, man?
what's up, dude? Hey, man. We got ourselves kind of a mid-season look at where the birds sit, and then we're gonna sadly talk about. This last time we talked about, football, baseball. Birds were undefeated at that point. The Eagles were just entering the play, or excuse me, the Phillies were just entering the playoffs, and we're at a different spot now. A little over a month or so later, so
Yeah,
you know.
and the Flyers were just getting started, which I was wrong. I owe them an apology.
Yeah, and I know we don't talk basketball, but the Sixers are surprising
Yeah,
right now at this point. So a little shout out to them. At what are they, 5-1?
something like that. Yeah,
And I think the one loss was by a point. So
it was to the Celtics in overtime or something like that.
yeah. So got a props out to that rookie VJ Edgecombe
Yeah, VJ Edgecombe lighting it up.
and Tyrese Maxey's really throwing it down too. So
Yeah,
I can't really say much for Embiid, but whatever.
yeah, you know,
He plays every third day anyway.
yeah, he's a part timer at this point anyway. So
That's why we don't talk basketball.
right,
All right. Let's talk our Philadelphia Eagles, because right now we, as we record this, we're just coming out of the bye week. We actually recording this just before kickoff to the Monday night game, which is featuring Dallas and Arizona. So I say that because obviously Dallas is in our division, but looking at the other division games this weekend, first the Giants lost to the Niners, and I'm not a Giants fan. I know you're not either. I hate to see Scattaboo get hurt the way he did. We got to say, mad props to Philly for taking care of him.
oh yeah. Big
So,
Dom getting it done with the cheesesteaks and the pizza. Everybody at the hospital, doing their job, but they went above and beyond for him. So good on everybody involved.
yeah. No, I was a big fan of hearing that. Not that I thought differently,
Right.
but really cool to see. Just hate to see that guy go out the way he did. I really like the guy's style of play. Freak accident, freak injury. Hope he returns and keeps mashing it, because I think he's going to be one heck of a ball player. Kind of flipped the other side though, so they lost against the Niners this weekend, and then the Commanders. Oof. Did you watch any of that game?
No. Well, you know what? I turned it on. I think it was at just before halftime, because I was playing Pokemon. So, more important things, priorities.
Yeah. No, I mean, how many people really just want to sit there and say, as Eagles fans, yeah, that's what I do, flip on the Commanders and Seahawks.
Yeah.
But boy, they got absolutely throttled. The Seahawks they just took it to them, and that game was not close at all at any point. And then another freak accident, freak injury. Jaden Daniels dislocated left elbow. I thought it would take a season. It looks like he may come back toward the end of the season. But so you're talking divisional games right now, or divisional teams. I thought the Commanders were our threat. With Jaden Daniels being out, I don't know. And McLaurin's not really seen much of the field either. Man, what's your take on the division right now? The Eagles stand at 6-2. What do you think?
And Washington's in second place, right?
So as we sit here tonight, this is before the Eagles the Cowboys take the field. Right now, the Cowboys are actually in second place at 3-4-1. So even if the Cowboys lose, that tie will still hold their second place.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, look, the Giants with Dart, that definitely gave him a spark, especially with Scattaboo before he got hurt. Now he and I, or you and I, have different views on that guy. He's got one of those faces. I just, I don't want to punch him because he would kick my ass, but he's got one of those he's a hate the face guy. But I don't know. if they would have had Scatterboo going forward, I think that they would have still been our major, the major issue that we would have coming up behind us. But with them out of it, and with Jaden Daniels hurt, and who's the backup there? Is that Jacoby Brissett? Or no, it's
No,
Marcus
so
Mariota.
yeah, Mariota. Yeah, Brissett's in Arizona. So
And Brissett's starting tonight.
right. Yeah, and I
That's
kind of need
right.
him. I need him to do everything under the sun right now. So,
So I mean, I guess Dallas is by default just our the next closest to us, and we only have one game left against them.
Yeah, it's weird, right? So let's say Dallas wins. Let's just they're playing Arizona. It's likely that they will.
Yeah,
That moves Dallas to an even 500, 4-4-1. The Eagles are still 2 more wins and also already have a win over Dallas. So at the halfway marker in the season, I mean,
it's look. Here's the thing: the division, and I don't want to sound cocky. I don't want to sound like anything is a sure thing, because it's the NFL, and you know what NFL stands for? Not for long.
right.
So you never know when there's going to be a major injury, when there's going to be some kind of issue that's going to come up. So I don't want to say that the Birds have it wrapped up, but at the same time, one team is going from the NFC East. One team is going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
The NFC West is too deep. The look, the NFC North is too deep, and the NFC South, before you look, it's not that far-fetched that if something happens to Baker and the Bucks lose a couple games, that the Panthers could actually catch them. The Panthers have won 5 games now.
Yeah, they're 5-4. They're 5-4, sitting second place in that division. And look, the Eagles are in a division right now where they're the only team, again, as we record this, 500 or above. Every single team in the NFC North is 500 or above. Then you have, like I said, the Panthers are they have one less win and 2 more losses than the Buccaneers. But again, not far off pace. Bryce Young's really showing something this year. They've got Rico Dowdle, that I think is now your RB1 there, and he's really starting to light it up. You've got some weapons there that I think they're starting to put it together. The Panthers could turn some heads. I don't know that they're, maybe a fringe wild card team.
Right.
But I think, if things broke completely right, I mean, yeah, you're nipping on the heels of the division there, but I think they're a fringe wild card team. And then, like you said, too, the NFC West is strong, too. Outside of the Cardinals, you've got 3 teams with 6 wins.
Right.
And that's including the Mac Jones-led 49ers.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, look, you're getting probably out of the NFC North or the NFC West is where your wild card teams are coming. Everybody else that gets in is going to be a division winner. And I don't see it. It could even be 3. It could be all 3 teams from the West or all 3 teams from the North. I'm banking on the West at this point, just based on where everybody stands. But the NFC is actually kind of loaded this year.
Yeah,
and it's a little bit concerning to a degree.
Yeah, it's funny. So I think we kind of took this in a different direction, but I think this is the right direction to take. Is to look at everyone else around you. Right now the Eagles division is weak. Other than the Birds themselves, they're the ones that are leading the pack. They're the ones that are sharing the best record in the NFC at 6-2, with the Seahawks, the Rams, the Bucks, and that and obviously themselves. The other things to look at, though, are you had some major injuries transpire within the last couple of weeks. We've already talked about Scatterboo. The Packers lost Tucker Kraft, and he was like their number one guy for catching the ball, basically. They've had, kind of as the Packers have done recently, kind of that revolving door of wide receivers they like to throw to. But Tucker Kraft was like the guy, there. So he's out for the year. And, you look at some other things, with the other teams, Caleb Williams for the Bears is really stepping up. He talk about a game. I mean, yesterday, what a win, and just really, really exposing it. Now, I'm not going to say much for the Bears defense right now,
Right.
but offensively, firing all cylinders. And I think, they've got some weapons there. And we've already talked about Bryce Young. And then you've got, your stalwarts that have been there for a while with Baker and at the top, and which is funny to say, right?
Yeah.
But then Matthew Stafford with the Rams, again, just putting together another solid year. But then, like I said, here's the one thing I'm looking at right now as I look at the standings. The Niners, 6-3. They're one more loss than both the Seahawks and the Rams because they've had one more game. The Niners have played 6 of their 9 games on the road. So they have a lot of home games coming up. That division could be flipped on its head.
Oh, yeah.
Very quickly. So I don't know. Really, outside of the Giants are obviously not going to do much. The Saints, we don't need to talk about them. The Falcons have now lost 3 in a row.
You know what, though? The Falcons are that team that on any given Sunday can upset anybody. Because remember, they took down the Bills.
Yeah, you're right. The Falcons are a funny team. They really are.
They got tons of talent. They just can't put it together.
No. Yeah, exactly. It's almost like they're kind of where the Panthers were at, last year. And I think the Panthers are just now starting to put that together. But other than, like I said, the Cardinals, I don't have much for them right now. That's kind of disjointed. Jonathan Gannon can go eat one.
Yep.
But now it's weird. You're right, though. It's a tough conference. It's really tough. And, Eagles, I think you and I talked about this in our season preview, likely going to be a top seed, whether that was going to be a 1 or a 2, but very possible it was going to be more of a middling thing because of, how some of the other teams might finish out. And I think you and I, when we did our preview, we were both in that stretch of, okay, I think they're going to be a 6-2, 7-1 type team at this point. So I think we were pretty spot on.
Yeah, I think so. When we looked at it in the beginning of the year, it was one of those things, they have the toughest schedule in the league. And I don't think that that's really changed since, normally during the game or during the season, they'll say, oh, well, your strength of schedule has changed and it's not as strong. I don't think it's really changed for the better at all. I think it's still just as strong as it was. And they're to the point where every game is winnable, but they're not going to win every game.
Right.
And I mean, case in point, neither of us had them losing to the Giants the first game.
No. What a crazy, again, the Giants were firing all cylinders. And you and I recorded that. I do remember saying this. I said, by week 6, Jackson Dart's going to be the starter. I made that statement, and, I was pretty confident about what I failed to realize was that I didn't think he was going to be the starter. Who was he, week 4?
Yeah.
I think he got the start. I didn't think he'd be the start. And so he got to actually have a lot more reps, and then Scadaboo was just going off.
Yeah, nobody saw that coming either.
No. So, all credit to them. They just put it all together and really, showed us the door on that one. But, boy, life comes at you fast, though, because you fast forward 2 weeks and,
Right. And we dismantled them, which
yeah.
is kind of what I expected to happen. I mean, we were even talking about going to the game at the Meadowlands. I'm so glad we didn't.
Yeah, no kidding, dude. No kidding, because that
one and the Broncos game. That was the 2 games we were talking about.
And I'm really glad on that one too, because even though I called that as being a loss, it's still hard for me to swallow that one.
Yeah.
But I'll say this though, man, Denver, good Lord, dude, they're just stacking wins, 7-2. I think, we both saw that to be a strong team. I'm a big fan of Bo Nix. I know you are too.
No, I'm not anymore. Fuck that guy.
Take the Eagles game out of it. But, Denver right now, I mean, this is weird looking at the AFC. Look, we all know about Josh Allen and the Bills. That's your numero uno, I guess, really. I mean, even though they're not in first in the AFC East, but that's because they played one less game. But Drake May's Patriots. What do you think about Drake May this year?
Dude, I didn't have anything for him really, like other than I thought he would be a good, a good quarterback. I didn't see them taking the leap that they've taken this year.
Oh.
I thought that they would be, they were still going to be like a year or two away. I thought that the Bills would run away with the East in the AFC, and that I thought that the Patriots would be right behind them, but not really. And I thought the Jets would be a lot better than they are.
I don't know. I really want to like Justin Fields. Unfortunately, the Jets are just such a disaster organization that there was nothing that was ever going to come good out of that.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, they're a disaster. The Dolphins are just as bad of a disaster. Of course, some of that's injuries, and I don't know. Their coach, I'm not a fan of.
Oh, I want Mike McDaniels as our offensive coordinator next year.
I just don't want him as a head coach anywhere near it, because he certainly doesn't seem like he knows what's going on half the time.
No, but he's good with Legos.
Yeah, see, and boy, the AFC North is a weird one. Obviously, the Browns are in last. What a shocker. The Bengals, unfortunately, had the Burrow injury. Flacco is doing everything he can, including for almost throwing for 500 yards in a game, and still can't win. Lamar has been sidelined, so the Ravens are, a couple games out, there from the Steelers, who are just basically winning that division because everyone else sucks.
Yeah, but they're doing some stuff too. They almost took out the Panthers, or not the Panthers, the Packers.
Yeah, they took the Colts down. Of course,
and then they took down the Colts.
Of course, it's Daniel Jones. We all know, regression to the mean.
Yeah, but they held Jonathan Taylor to I don't know what his stats looked like, but I know he only got me 7 fantasy points.
Yeah, they weren't good. So he apparently 14 carries was all, which is terrible for a guy who's having like a Tecmo Super Bowl like season.
Yeah.
So yeah, Colts are at 7-2 now. The Jaguars are interesting. I tell you what, Trevor Lawrence and crew are doing some things. Of course, they're a couple wins off, but they're second place in the South right now.
Yeah, 68-yard field goal, new NFL record.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right? The Texans, man, I don't know.
Dude, they can't look.
They can't score.
Here's the thing. They can't score. They have one of the best defenses in the NFL. They can't score to save their lives. They got the giraffe, Davis Mills, as their quarterback right now because CJ Stroud can't stay healthy. And that's pretty much where it stands.
Yeah, I don't know. And Tennessee, we can just move on.
Yeah. Who are they?
Yeah, they're a team. They have a team in Tennessee. That's about it though.
The Volunteers?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, I think the Volunteers could probably beat the Titans right now.
Yeah.
Even Vanderbilt could beat them. Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, we were talking Broncos, but the other surprise for me. I really like this because I'm a big fan, and I have been for a long time. Justin Herbert. I always thought that he was going to put it together, but he's finally putting it together. Like solid so far. I've heard conversations, with different commentators and broadcasters saying that, he could legitimately be a top 5 quarterback And I think he's finally showing enough that he might actually be stepping his toe into that conversation. He's got a lot of pieces around him. I do like, the fact that they're 6-3 right now. They've dealt with some injury, and they're a game ahead of the Chiefs.
Yeah, I love that they're a game ahead of the Chiefs because fuck the Chiefs.
Exactly. So that makes, and then there's the Raiders. So
yeah, the Raiders and Ashton Genty.
Brock Bowers scores 3 touchdowns. They still can't win a game.
Dude, they're such a joke.
Let's go
They're
for
such a joke.
Let's go for 2 with 16 seconds left in overtime, and
so dumb.
Well, you just go for the tie at that point and just screw up the standings.
It's Pete Carroll.
True.
It's Pete Carroll. I've got Marshawn Lynch. We've got the ball at the 1 yard line, and it's the Super Bowl. What am I going to do? Am I going to run the ball or am I going to throw it?
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. But I don't know. It's been funny. AFC's a little more varied. You have a lot more really bad teams, and unfortunately, some of the stuff is just been injury related.
Yeah.
So we'll see how the different things shake out. I do like where the Eagles sit right now, and I know what I want to talk about is moving forward with the Birds. They made some big moves over the last few days. Michael Carter 2.
Yes. So we picked up Michael Carter II, who is a slot corner, kind of miscast in the Jets defense. Our defense goes more to his skill set. Jair Alexander comes in from the Ravens. Nice and fresh legs because, again, somebody who didn't really fit the scheme. I don't really know why the Ravens signed him in the first place, knowing that he didn't fit the scheme. I guess they figured they could just force him into a role, but it didn't work out. So their loss is our gain. And then the big one, Jalen Phillips, the edge rusher from Miami Dolphins, happened this morning. It is certainly Howie's season.
Yeah, I saw that. I texted you first thing. Jalen Phillips one's big. It's needed the edge. He's been sidelined. He's not played a lot. He's been hurt, the last couple of years. But the guy had a hell of a rookie campaign, had a very nice follow-up sophomore year in the NFL. Then banged up, injuries and stuff. It happens. It's football, But no, I think he'll be a great fit. And correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't he a Fangio guy before Fangio came back around?
He was. Vic Fangio really wanted him in Philly because he was a player that Fangio really liked when he was in Miami as a defensive coordinator. And not many players, you can say that about because apparently most of them didn't like him, but Jalen Phillips actually did like him and enjoyed working with him. And so, it's good to get him in. And look, that edge rusher group is getting reinforcements this week. You got BG coming out of retirement. You got Nolan Smith coming off of IR. And now you got Jalen Phillips, who should be able to step right in because it's all the same terminology and everything. It's the same defense.
Yeah, it's a Vic Fangio defense. Yeah,
right. So you're looking at 3 players getting injected into that rotation with Josh Uche and I'm trying to remember who's still not hurt. Patrick Johnson. I was going to say Aziz Ojulari, but he's on injured reserve now. Jalix Hunt. You got some guys there, and now they're getting reinforcements. It's just going to make the whole team stronger. And then, you look at your defensive backfield, that cornerback 2 opposite Quinyon Mitchell, that's been such a problem. That's been a hole with Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson. Now you can either bump Coop from the slot. He won't be he may play on the outside now, and you put Carter on the nickel or in the slot, or you put Jair Alexander on the outside, keep Coop on the inside, and then you play Carter in dime packages. Dude, there's just so much you can do now. And then and we're forgetting the other thing that happened too was and this happened last week, was Nakobe Dean comes back full time, which allows you to take Jihad Campbell and rotate him in with the edge rushers too when you're not playing Jihad Campbell at linebacker.
Yeah.
So you've got so the Eagles defense, even though it's been a weakness up to this point, getting all these players back and getting these players in the trade is really going to change the complexion of the defense. And I think it's really going to fix things. Obviously it's not going to happen overnight, but I think you're really going to see a change, and hopefully going into the playoffs, they'll really be hitting their stride. I don't want to say playoffs too early because, like we said, look, you and I are both fans long enough to remember 7-2 turning into 9-7 or 7-9, and during the Richie Kotite years, and missing the playoffs. So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I think that it could really turn things around now, and the offense looks like it's finally clicking. Jalen's doing his thing. Jalen is being Jalen, keeping the main thing, which is winning. And you know what? Well, I'm gonna tangent here a little bit.
All good.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Buffalo Bills, and I'm going to talk bad about them. They voted against tush push and said that it's not a football play and it's dangerous and it's this and it's that, right?
They did. They certainly did.
And then Josh Allen he goes ahead and runs it multiple times in their last game against the Chiefs. I'm correct in saying that, right?
Not only that, there's a certain statistic right now that's I don't know if you're aware of this, with tush push touchdowns. Are you aware of the stat that's going on right now?
Oh, please enlighten me.
So Jalen Hurts, our Jalen Hurts,
right,
has 3 tush push touchdowns, but he's not the leader right now.
Oh, really? Who pray tell would be the leader?
Josh Allen has 4.
Get right out of town. And that's what kills me. But you know what? And everybody talks shit. Everybody talks shit on Jalen, saying, "Oh, well, he only scores touchdowns because of the tush push." Well, nobody's saying that about Josh Allen.
No, not one person is, are they?
No. Gee, I wonder why.
I
wonder why that could be.
I
can think of 2 reasons, but I'm not trying to get into that on this.
No. Another story for another day. But yeah. I think we're gonna have to have, whether it's a Jelts or our main pod that we do, just the sheer hatred that we've seen over the years from national media on Philadelphia. Most of it's sports related, but I think there's a great conversation to be had, because I know a lot of other people are like fans of, other teams, like, well, they treat my team like that too. And it's like, I'm sorry, but you have no idea. Mm-hmm. We've dealt with this for decades. And even when they were bad, because Philly always got the rep for being, well, they're the guys that booed Santa Claus and all this garbage. No, I think that's one thing that we'll have to seriously sit down and just hash it out and be like, look, no.
Right. I agree.
I do want to say something, though, about those moves. So Michael Carter II, Jay Alexander, and Jalen Phillips, right seat on the bus, or right people on the bus. And I think that forces the right seat on the bus, like as you were talking about. So you're plugging in, Jalen Phillips, he knows the schemes, he knows, like you said, the terminology. Right seat on the bus. Jay Alexander, because of his style, he fits right in the Philly scheme, and you can put the people around him, like, hey, let's put the Gene in on the inside. Let's do things where it makes sense for the people, right? They're the right moves that need to be made. Howie is again, doing the right thing.
Right.
And I think I said, I don't know if this changes my outlook as far as where I think they're going to go, but I feel a lot more comfortable knowing that the division is essentially collapsing around us, and the Eagles need to basically just, start stepping on bodies to stay on top.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly right. That's where they're at. And at this point, just they can't take their foot off the gas. They got to just keep their foot down, beat the teams that are in front of them. They can't worry about anything else that's going on. It's a tough schedule coming up. You got Green Bay, the Lions, you got the Bears the day after Thanksgiving. Then you got Dallas in the mix there somewhere.
Yeah.
Then what is it? Washington, Buffalo, and Washington.
Yeah, they do. Right now, I'll just rattle off Green Bay, Detroit, Dallas, Bears, Chargers, Raiders, LOL, Commanders, Buffalo Commanders. Sorry.
Yeah, I forgot about the Raiders since they're not really a team.
Notice I didn't even do that with Dallas. It's the Raiders.
Well, it's the Raiders, dude. Seriously, look, if we lose to the Raiders, something's really wrong.
Oh, if they lose to the Raiders, they should just not even play the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Just look, guys, just whatever. Just hand it over to someone else.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. We'll see. I was a little nervous whenever the Denver loss happened back to back. Really, I don't think either of us called that happening. But I feel a little bit better after Minnesota and the Giants round 2, and then a little healthier out of the bye. Nolan Smith, as you mentioned, coming back, and we got some things coming our way. So I like it. And look, as you said, BG out of retirement. Let's go. All right. We got to switch gears, though. We got to talk a little bit of Philadelphia baseball.
Do we have to?
Yeah, I mean, just a little bit.
All right.
And I'm just curious. This is more of I think let's just have fun with this for a few minutes. More of a speculation, skepticism, pessimism, whatever.
Defeatism.
Right. So, look, 4 years in a row now, we've made the playoffs and have subsequently been exited out of the playoffs in very weird ways at times. But this year seemed to hurt the worst because of how it went down. And look, Phillies rotation was built for moving forward, even without Wheeler. But, weird decisions with the bullpen, whatever aside, we can talk about Kirk Rain's thing all day long. That offense just did not show up at all. And when it did, it was a guy that neither you or I really want to see on the team next year. And I say that with Nick Castellanos. You're going into this offseason with Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, Ranger Suarez as your top 3 free agents. As we sit here on November the 3rd, do you see any of those 3, all 3, coming back?
I want to amend that. I want to throw in a 4th as a top free agent too. Is Harrison Bader.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Absolutely.
And honestly, in a perfect world, all 4 of them are back. However, we all know how this plays out. I don't think Schwarber's back, as much as I hate to say it, because I would love. Schwarber's one of my favorite current Phillies, and I'd love to see him back. But I think that they're not going to open the purse strings for him, and they're going to justify it in saying, "Well, this is how we've got to make changes to the team." And I feel like they're going to do that. Rangers gone. Rangers gone. I just have that feeling too, because they're going to say Andrew Painter's going to come up and take his spot. And I think that JT, honestly, maybe he's the guy that they re-signed. But look, he's getting older, and he's not going to be able to catch. You know, he's he. When's the last time he caught 150 games in a
Yeah,
season?
he's JT's basically at this point clipped at about 110. I think is his max. I'll pull it real quick to see, his games per year, but I'm with you on this one. I don't think Schwarber's re-signed. I hate to say that, but I don't think he is. I think here's my take on Ranger. I think Ranger is unfortunately not re-signed with, I believe the Painter sentiment is correct because, slot the young guy in. But I honestly believe that Ranger lost his spot because Luzardo really stepped up. That's my guess. I could be wrong, but Luzardo comes as a cheaper option,
Right.
in the short term.
And less injuries.
Right. So I think there's some rationale there as to why. Plus, like you said, Painter coming up. Eventually you got to give the guy a chance at the major league level. JT, I think you're right on the money though. And here, my reason why I think they're going to re-sign him is, obviously he's still one of the best catchers in baseball. The free agent market for catchers is awful. Once you get out of JT, it's terrible. And the Phillies don't have anybody. Like, you can't tell me that they're going to sit there and rely on Garrett Stubbs, or Marchand moving forward,
right,
as catcher number one. That's not going to happen. If JT is not re-signed, they have to trade. That's it. There's no one there. I mean,
and I had seen a trade that they were talking about, and I'm trying to remember the name of the player. Adley Rutschman from
Baltimore. That would be. See, I would dig that. And I was mistaken. JT actually went 134 this year. He was injured a bit the year before, so 99, and then he's been 21 through 23, anywhere from 134 to 139. So I still think you're capping him at maybe 121, 130 is really pushing it, moving forward with him, in my opinion. Rutschman would be nice. Now, what you have to trade, I don't know.
Right.
So
and what I heard is that they're going to be looking to get rid of him because they had signed him to a contract, and then they have that new kid, which his name escapes me at this point.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh, yeah. Let me look that up real quick. No, you're right. Orioles have a knack for just producing young talent, too. Was it Basalo?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I think it's him. Yeah, I think he's the one that you're thinking of. Yeah, he's the young guy, too. He's 21. Yeah, he picked up some time in the majors this year. Didn't put up any really great numbers, but he could be there moving forward and potentially save them a lot of money. I don't know, but that would be the only thing though, because they would have to make the trade if JT's not re-signed. I do think they re-sign JT. I don't think Schwarber gets re-signed. I don't think Ranger gets re-signed. I do think they re-sign Bader. What do you think?
Right. I think so. I think Bader comes back. I think Bohm is traded. I think the dude's name is escaping me right now. The third baseman for the Red Sox.
Oh, Bregman. Yeah, he opted out.
Yeah. I think Bregman gets brought in to switch things up. And I think that you see Castellanos I don't know what they're going to do with him, but I don't see him on this team next year.
Yeah, so he's owed, I think, $20 million or something in that realm. I think they re-signed Bader to essentially take Nick's spot. I think you see Justin Crawford coming up to patrol center field. Left field's going to be manned by Marsh and whoever else they bring in as a fourth outfielder. You're going to see some weird combo of guys that are already there too. Weston Wilson, those guys that are, going to be the journeyman, so to speak. But I think, Marsh, I think stays. I think he's going to be, in patrolling left field. Bader is going to be your guy that goes to, he'll play center, he'll play right. But I think Justin Crawford's your new everyday center fielder. Bryce stays at first. I think Stott stays at second. Trey's obviously, cemented in at short. I completely agree. I think Bohm's gone. Bregman is the next logical thing. JT's re-signed. What that does with the rotation, I don't know. Obviously Luzardo's there. You got Sanchez, who thank God he's turned into a Cy Young contender. I hope to God Wheeler is back. Of course, he's had an injury that I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be ready for spring training. I think he's going to be. I think he's maybe mid-season.
Yeah, so it doesn't look good for him. It sucks, and I really, really like him as a gamer, but it happens, right? I mean, sports,
right,
and life. I mean, there's just it sucks. So we'll see. The Phillies typically do have a good starting pitching. At least they've had over the last few years, and hopefully it'll continue. Just whether it's Painter or somebody else from the minors, or they make a good signing. I think Luzardo was a good representation of bringing somebody in that had a ceiling, but was talented enough to really slot in and really fit in. And I think he really showed that. And so I think maybe in that realm. If I'm going to go on the wild side of, obviously Schwarber will say, I think you and I are in agreement that he won't come back. Two guys right now. Do you think they make a play for Kyle Tucker? Do you think they make a play for Pete Alonso?
Pete Alonso is the name that jumps out at me that I think that they probably go after. Kyle Tucker, for Katie's sake, I'm going to say, hopefully they don't take a play for. But
we've been dogging her hard on that one. We keep saying, did you read trade rumors today? I'm really, really looking at Tucker.
You're going to have to get her a jersey, right?
Oh, I know.
Or at least a jersey.
Oh, man. I think Alonso, though, dude, I think is more the, thing. Now, and if that happens, though, do you leave Harper at first? Do you do some swapping with some DH stuff? What do you do there? I mean,
I think that Harper's defense is so much better than Alonso's that you got to leave Harper at first.
Yeah.
And then you can throw Alonso in as DH. That's kind of where I'm at with it. But that said, all things considered, I'd still rather have Schwarber. But
obviously,
I just think that he put himself in another pay bracket.
He did. And here's the thing. I think about this a lot. Where would Schwarber end up? And I've got two spots I possibly think he would end up outside of Philly. He's either back a Cub, because Cubs have money to burn all of a sudden again. Or I say all of a sudden, they've been a top payroll team for a while again. Possibly Cincinnati. I mean, he's
from Cincy.
From Cincy. So, and look, he's young still, but I mean, in baseball terms, he's been around for quite some time. So he could just throw out a long-term deal. And let's not kid ourselves here. Cincinnati, they were sniffing around this year, and they made the playoffs. You put someone like Schwarber, plug him in that lineup.
Yeah. He could do it. He could be the missing piece. And, what better way to end your career than getting your team, your hometown team into the playoffs and making them a contender. Now, obviously, let's be real here. I don't know that anybody at this point is playing for anything other than second place in the National League.
Right.
That's just the way it is. The Dodgers have built themselves into this juggernaut, and I really don't know who knocks them off at this point. Yeah. I would love to say that the Phillies could do it, or that some other team could do it, but look, we just saw them get taken to the brink. they still ended up on top. They're beatable, but it takes a Herculean effort.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we didn't have it this year.
No, everything under the sun. Like, let's look at Game 7 of the World Series. Ohtani pitched terribly to start that game. Then you have a guy who pitched and won Game 6 in Yamamoto, and then just shut the door in Game 7. Oh, hey, by the way, he just threw 100 pitches yesterday starting the game. Why don't you just come in and close up shop for us? Man, that team is just built, and I knew it the way they started messing around with the Phillies. They threw out Snell and Class now and these other guys that are like, wait a minute, this isn't a real bullpen. Look, they built that team to do that. That's the whole point. As long as we get in the playoffs, then they can screw with you all day long. It's ridiculous. And that team is not going to fall apart because of one injury or whatever. That team is just stacked, solid,
right,
full of guys. So yeah, I don't know who takes them out. I mean, I want it to be the Phillies, but I really don't know. It sucks. I mean,
you know what really sucks? Remember how in the wow. Articulate Bobby is articulate.
I thought you were going to say Dallas.
Well, we'll get to that. But no, in the when Yamamoto had posted, the Phillies offered him more money than God.
Yeah.
And he still chose to go to Los Angeles.
Yeah, and I think part of that's Ohtani. He's there.
Oh, yeah.
But then also the West Coast, which has historically attracted the Japanese players because of the proximity to being able to fly back home.
Mm-hmm.
Seattle was big for that, for the Ichiro. And we go back even further than that. Hideo Nomo for the Dodgers. There's other players that have done that, and because that's that's a historic thing. It's closer to fly back home. I mean,
right.
It makes a lot of sense. But there's also a lot of money to be had out in California and the West Coast. Let's not kid ourselves. The Dodgers are the 21st century version of the Yankees. That's kind of where it stands. There's money all over the place, and that's just where they're at. But I don't know. It'll be an interesting offseason. I do hope the Phillies make a splash. I would love to see them re-sign Schwarber. I know that that's likely not the case. There's obviously people that we haven't talked about that are more kind of middling, like Max Kepler type folks, but they're going to be gone.
Yeah,
but
I don't need to see Max Kepler back in a Phillies uniform.
No, but I don't either. But there were some positives to this season, as much as of a hater as I am how the playoffs turned out. But they won a lot of ball games again. It's just a matter of everyone talks about that window closing, whatnot, and I don't know that that's a bad sentiment, really. I mean,
yeah.
So
I don't like the idea, but I also can't, I can't poo-poo it because it really looks like it's getting close.
All right. We opened up with a little bit of Sixers chatter, which we never talked basketball.
No.
We talked Birds. We talked Phillies. I need you to close us up with some Flyers here because I'm following, but obviously, you're the Flyers guy.
Well, first of all, fuck ESPN and Hulu for blacking out the last two games because I wanted to watch them. I mean, I guess it was a blessing in disguise since they lost both of them, but still, fuck them for doing that because that pissed me off. Sit down, I'm all excited. Oh, and that's like 3 games in the last week because I didn't even get to see him play against Pittsburgh. I didn't get to see him beat the Pens because it was on normal ESPN, so it wasn't on the streaming.
Oh, well, that's weird though. Why was it? Huh? Let's see. Why was it blacked out?
I don't know, but it pissed me off.
I don't know, man. That because YouTube TV just lost their ESPN deal, so.
Oh, I heard that.
Yeah, so I've been fighting that battle. Another conversation, another podcast.
Yeah.
So,
but No, the Flyers they're playing real well this season so far. I mean, granted, it's it's the season is still young, but the team is young. The team is responding well to Rick Tocchet. You got Trevor Zegras is lighting it up for him. Matvey Michkov is starting to turn it around. You got Owen Tippett playing probably the best start to a season that he's had with the Flyers, and you're getting good returns out of your goalies. Harrison hasn't been great, but he's hurt now anyway. But Dan Vladar has been outstanding in goal form. The defense needs a little work, but again, they're a young team and it's a work in progress, but they're coming along well.
Yeah, no. I'm just and if you're unfamiliar, the NHL standings are, it can be you might need a little, partial math degree to get them figured out, but the Flyers are sitting at the bottom of the Metropolitan Division, but overall record is not terrible. And especially comparative right now, they're kind of, sitting down there with the Islanders and Capitals, sitting at the same record. Well, the Rangers too, really. And, and not far off pace. I mean, you're talking Devils 9-4. Flyers are sitting 6-5 with one OTL. So,
which and honestly, if you look at it from a broad perspective, are they playing well overall? Like in the grand scheme, no, they're not having like a playoff caliber season. But for what we expected and how they've played previously, yeah, they're having a great season, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes because they're on the up.
Yeah, and I know you didn't have much on them for we chatted a month or so ago about our Philadelphia teams here, but I like that. I like the positivity, and I think we opened with positivity with the Sixers. I didn't think they'd be 5-1.
No,
and I think a lot of us, even though we don't follow basketball, like we follow obviously the Eagles and Phillies, and you follow the Flyers. I mean, look, hey, I'm not gonna bandwagon it because I did follow the Sixers quite a bit in the Barkley era and the Iverson era. I just was not a fan of the NBA, so
right.
It it is what it is. But of course, I'm always going to follow my teams, and look, it's pretty cool to have every single team basically be winning, right? I mean, they're all above 500.
Yeah, I like it.
So it's something.
4 for 4, baby.
Hey, I do have one thing to close up shop with you, though. And as we record this live, this just makes me smile even further. Arizona's now currently winning 10-0.
Nice. Because guess what? Dallas sucks. Go Birds, dickhead.